In this lesson, we'll take some time to get familiar with AutoCAD's interface. Hello and welcome to your introduction to AutoCAD. I'm excited to be here and sit with you and walk through how to get started in AutoCAD. This introduction is going to be really helpful for you to even get started and begin working on projects of your own. So basically what we'll be covering, we'll take a look at the interface like we're going to do in this lesson, but we'll also start playing around with tools, using those tools to kind of create geometry. We'll take a look at how to work in AutoCAD's 2D tools as well as their 3D tools. So by the time we're done working in this course, you'll be so familiar and so introduced to AutoCAD that you'll be so pumped up and so ready to go get started on your own project. So with that, let's take a look at our interface. So when you first open up AutoCAD, you get this new tab here, and what this is basically broken down into two sections. We have our Create, which is what we're here now, and when you look here on the bottom, if I click on Learn, it takes me to another section of the new tab. Now, let's stick here on the new tab and let's take a look at what's going on here. So this is basically broken down into three sections. What's new, getting started videos, and a lot of your update online stuff here. So under what's new, we could take a look at the feature overview. So if you've already used AutoCAD and this is a new version you're playing with, this is a good way to get familiar with some of the new stuff that's in there. If you're just getting started, Autodesk and AutoCAD does a nice job of supplying you with some little small tutorials here to help you get started with creating and modifying and things like that to help you just jump in. We also have a feature video, so anything where we have enhancements, anything like that, we can find out what those are here. So on this right side, we've got our security stuff here. So we got updates as well as online resources. So I can click on Create, and this is where we can access old files or start a new project. So this one too, in a way, is broken down into three sections: our Get Started, Recent Documents, and this area here. So getting started, pretty much like it sounds. I can click on this gigantic button here and I can start a drawing, or I can click on this arrow and I can access a number of templates that I may want to use, or maybe even some examples to get started. So that's pretty cool. We can open files that we may have stored somewhere. We can open sheets, templates. We can even explore some sample drawings that may come in AutoCAD. And then under Recent Documents, I like this one here because if you're working on multiple projects, it kind of simplifies that process of accessing the files. It has several files that you've been working on, and I can click on any one of these. It's represented graphically as well as the name of the file and also the last time I modified it, even the time, and the date. In this last section here, updates, notifications, and also your opportunity to sign into Autodesk 360. So you can, again, navigate all throughout this area. So you can use your little wheel here to kind of move up and down there. So again, jump to our learning all the new stuff, jump to Create, opening up files, getting started. And let's do just that. So to get started, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to click on my Get Started here. And what happens is I'm opened up to the interface of AutoCAD. So the black area here, this is known as your model space. And this is where you'll actually spend a lot of your time working. And when it comes time to start laying out your drawings on sheets and getting ready to plot those images, well, down here on the bottom left, you'll notice Model Space Layout 1, Layout 2, and I can even add a layout. But this is where we can actually jump from working on my model or my drawing, or I can see how it looks in my layout view. And we'll get a little more in depth on how to work with these layouts a little bit later in the course. But this is how you actually do that. So it's as easy as that. So if you're ever working and you accidentally click this and you jump in here and you're like, oh my gosh, the interface looks totally different, it's just because you're in the model space or the layout space and you've accidentally clicked down there. And I've done that a couple of times. So a nice way, or a way to understand how AutoCAD is broken down, is you could think of its main sections. So it's tabs, ribbons, and panels. Now tabs would be home, insert, annotate, parametric. So these tabs are basically the main functions I want to do. And within each tab is a ribbon. And within those ribbons, it's broken down into panels that have all the tools I need to do that manage it, that is assigned to these functions. So in our case here, clicking on home, which is going to be, most of my main functions, which is drawing, modifying, annotating, managing layers and things like that. This is where you're actually going to do that. So clicking on home tab brings me to the home ribbon, this ribbon here. And again, as I mentioned, ribbons are actually chopped up into panels. So you can see how this is represented graphically here. So we have a draw panel, or a modify panel, and annotate, and so on and so forth. And each one of these basically spells out for you what these tools are. So if you're only paying attention to the icons, that can be a bit intimidating, right? But Autodesk did a really nice job of combining graphics with text and separating them into panels and grouping things together, so I know that this particular panel houses this number of functions. And as you begin to work with these tools, it just becomes second nature as far as accessing this, whether you're using your icons or you're typing commands in your command line. So again, we've got panels here. So within each panel, we've got a set of tools represented nicely by these icons or buttons. So I can click on a line button and I can start working with any kind of geometry I want to create. Same thing with polylines, circles, and all that. So we'll get into the details on what these are and when it's best to use those and how to use those once we get familiar with this interface. But that's basically how it's broken down. So within each button here, occasionally you'll have a drop down. It's a different way to draw something. So you can see we have a number of ways we can actually draw our circles, a number of ways we can draw our arcs, depending on your design and the sequence and how comfortable you are working with that tool. Underneath these small buttons here, we have access to more as well, rectangles, polygons, things of that nature. Now, not every single panel has a drop down next to it, but most of these here do. So if you click on that name, it'll actually give you access to more tools. And if you wanted to get out of that, you just click back on that draw. And you can see this is on a number of them down here. So just gives you access to more tools within this panel. It kind of expands that out and it allows you to maximize the space that you're working with here without taking up too much room with all the tools you might have under modification. So we also have layers, and again, that's broken up exactly the same. We'll get into how to work with all that a little bit later. So now that we understand how tabs, ribbons, and panels work, in the next lesson, we'll take a look at some more features along this interface. We'll take a look at how we can actually view objects and navigate around through our project. So I'll meet you in the next lesson.